in your books and your online course, you teach a formula, and it starts by being trustworthy. What do you think that would look like for a salesperson or a manager or any kind of a leader?
A lot of things are already what we've already talked about, so it's, I got all these different, things I'm doing when I'm, engaging with someone, whether, I'm strategizing beforehand or live. But the first thing always is understanding what your goals and objectives are, the means goals and ends goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I differentiate between those because means goals are the very granular, like I want to sell this product, I want to get this promotion. But we think we have to do those things to get to the end. And what the ultimate end of what we always do as all human beings is we're looking for safety, security, and prosperity for us and our families. So the only way you're going to get there is through relationships. And so it's really funny is the only way you're going to do that means goal is focus on the ends goal first, which is relationships. Mm-hmm. And so being very clear on your ends goals and means goals, and then it starts flipping because you're never going to convince someone to do something. The big thing, because convincing someone is about what you want them to do. I'm always thinking in terms of how can I inspire them to want to? Because if I'm inspiring someone, now it's flipped. Now it's completely about them because people only are inspired to do things when it's in their best interest. So that's why the second step is what are their priorities? Goals, wants, dreams, and aspirations, long-term, short-term, personal, professional. Because now on the third step, I'm going to seek their context. How do they see the world through their particular optic? Because again, that's where I'm going to build that affiliation and overlapping liking. And then the fourth step is talking, it's speaking in terms of them. And how do you do that? The most important thing throughout this entire thing is suspend your ego and vanity and sense of superiority to anyone, because no one wants to be looked down on anyone. They want to feel like an equal and that they're a partnership. Be non-judgmental. Absolutely key, because as soon as someone feels judged in any way, shields are up and they get defensive because you're saying you're not part of my tribe. Mm-hmm. Honor reason. I always ask myself, so honor reason is what I'm about to say or do going to help or hinder my end goal being healthy relationship, and everything flows from there. Fourth is validate others non-judgmentally. In other words, seek their thoughts and opinions and understand them. Validation is about understanding others, not necessarily agreeing with them, because that's all people want to feel. And finally is be generous, because if you're generous with your resources without that expectation of reciprocity, that's what great salespeople and great leaders do. And so finally, the fifth step is crafting this whole encounter together. So I always start out with a specific non-judgmental validation of a strength, attribute, or action that this person's taken. So I'm always looking for someone's strengths. And if I don't know it, I'm always going to validate their time, because no one has to give it to you. Mm-hmm. Then from there, it just flows, because basically from this point, you now have to make the entire conversation about them. And you do that by including at least one of these four things to demonstrate affiliation and value in everything you say. One, seek their thoughts and opinions, because we only seek thoughts and opinions from people we value and want to affiliate with. Second, talk in terms of their priorities. If you're not, you're wasting your breath. Third, validate their thoughts, opinions, and values non-judgmentally. And fourth, empower them with choices. I always love this empowerment with choices thing, especially when I was in the FBI. I always give people the option of walking away and never being a resource or help me at all. And I've never had anyone walk away and do it. Why? It's that whole, that old Miracle on 34th Street, with Santa Claus working at Macy's. If Macy's didn't have the toy for the kids, he sent them the gimbals. And what did Macy's get? A lot of customers, because he empowered them with choices. Giving people choices is the best thing you can do, because now if you've taken time to know your goals and priorities, second step is understanding their goals and priorities. Now when you give people choices, you're naturally going to overlap them, and so everyone wins. That's what I do. It's a very granular process.
And it's a process that, you've studied the social psychology. I've done some studies as well. And there was one that was done by Harvard where they actually put people in an fMRI situation, and they were asking them those questions of, asking them the context. What do they think? What are their challenges? And people actually enjoy, it releases that part of our brain in the dopamine that gives us pleasure, enjoy answering those kinds of questions. And that's really how we're building rapport. But also, guess what? At the same time, you're learning more about them. You're learning more about the challenges that they have and how you might be able to help them solve that. One of the things I say is sales is a connection between problems and solutions. You need relationships to do that.
I love this process, because what it is, it's not just a code of trust, but it's a code of empathy. Mm-hmm. Because everything we're talking about is, I remember years ago, I am a typical type A. You look at my background that you read. I mean, I am a hardcore type A. But if you take that approach when selling something like the concept that helped the United States, to a foreign spy, you're going to fail majestically if you think you're going to use that type A behavior with them. So I really had to learn all these new tools. And it really just comes down that, how do you reverse this entire model and make it about the other person? And so this is it. I was told when I was in the Marine Corps, I was failing miserably at my first duty station, and I was ranked last out of all the second lieutenants. I got hammered on my fitness report. I remember the major told me, said, you just need to be a better leader and make it about everyone else but yourself. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? How the hell do you do that? I thought I was. This process is exactly that. This is the cognitive thought process for those people like me who are not born leaders and not born natural salespeople. This is exactly what you do to make it about someone else. The great thing is, because it's a process, it maintains objectivity, because that's the key. Because as long as you don't get emotionally hijacked with someone else who's on an emotional roller coaster potentially, you maintain that cognitive thought process to make sure it's continually about them. You're continuing off those resources for their success and prosperity.
Absolutely. And because when we get emotionally involved, and it clouds our ability to be able to see clearly the other person and understand, and it also clouds our ability to ask the questions that are going to help us to understand. Because,
and absolutely. The thing that really is amazing about that too, not just because I from all my experiences, every success or movement forward in anything I was ever doing came through relationships. Ultimately, what happens is when you get that emotional hijacking and that clouding, you're so focused on just one issue here, you have the inability to step back, release that judgment, and see, oh, wow, this relationship here, all these other relationships might be a better way or an easier way to get to where I'm going. And you only get that through, one, having that empathy and being about others, but maintaining that honoring reason and cognitive thought process. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, otherwise we get myopic. And like you said, it's like tunnel vision. You can't see anything else.
Absolutely. Can't.